Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to the New Year's edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks so much for being with us this evening. As we'll cover all the local teams, we'll cover the Saints, the Pelicans, LSU, and Tulane. Got a great panel for you tonight to kick off the new year. Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports and Sharief Ishaq of WDSU Channel 6 Sports. Sharief's first voyage here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Garland, welcome back to the show. Always great to have you. Tell the folks a little bit about what's going on with you and, of course, at Fox 8 Sports.
Well, we just got back from Houston and great Texas Bowl for LSU. Opened up the offense finally, so it was good to see LSU with a blowout victory against Texas Tech. And in the regular season, so we got one more tailgate on Sunday at 10 a.m., and then we wrap up the regular season on Final Play, talking Saints football, LSU football. Looking forward to to a non-postseason with the New Orleans Saints not involved, and it's going to be. I know a lot of fans are sad that the season's over,
yes.
You know, because there's like a lull when football's over with. But this has been a long season.
Yeah.
It's been tiring from training camp all the way to now. So, you know, sometimes you need a little break.
Yeah, well, the coaches don't need a break, but the press may need a little break. Sharief, welcome to the show.
Thanks
so much for joining us tonight.
You got it. Yep.
If you would, tell the folks a little bit about Channel 6 Sports and also a little bit about yourself as well.
All right, yeah, we just came off of our last, big special. The Saints on 6 special was a Monday night game against the Detroit Lions. Me and Jim Moore had some, good arguments.
As always,
great fights after the games, disagreeing on Drew Brees and Sean Payton. But that was our real big thing. And, the Saints and LSU made it easy for me to take a vacation here in the last week of the regular season for the Saints. So we had, just like Garland, we don't have the big special coming up on Sunday before the game, but the last game of the season. Then we move into the postseason, I guess after the season type of developments with the coaches and players, who comes, who goes. I'm from New Orleans, just as you mentioned before the show. I'm from New Orleans. I went to Archbishop Shaw, graduated in 2000, went to LSU, graduated in 2005, worked in Alexandria, Baton Rouge for 3 years, and I've been here for 2+ years now.
And how you loving Channel 6?
Oh, it's good. It's good to work with Fletcher. He talks a lot.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Like all the Mackles do.
Yeah.
Can't get a word in on the phone or at dinner.
Yeah, you're right about that one. Sorry, Fletch, we had to go there.
Yeah.
Guys, let's start off with the big stories, which it doesn't seem to be on the field, even though the Saints get a win against Jacksonville. Against Jacksonville. It's those splash reports. It's one more weekend of Peyton's going here, he's going there, everywhere. This time it was San Diego, and he has a interest. He's spoken privately about San Diego. Miami and Indianapolis are going to blow up the organization to be able to bring Peyton in to give him complete autonomy. The possibility of Doug Marrone coming in and possibly taking Peyton's place. Let's talk about the Peyton splash reports first. There's a lot of conjecture out there that Peyton will not be here next season, that it's going to be kind of a bidding war, which will be good for the Saints in the long run in terms of maybe rebuilding this team. But I'm still a firm believer that if Peyton is focused and wants to be here, the rebuilding will be much quicker with Peyton. What are your thoughts on these splash reports? What are your thoughts on the future of Sean Payton?
Eric, you know what's funny about these splash reports? The local media corps has become numb to them. They've happened every week. I think at the beginning of the season, we asked Peyton about them. Now we don't even care anymore. Right. They come out every single weekend. It's the same rhetoric. I just don't think he's going to go anywhere because you know what? Nowhere else will he have the power that he has with the New Orleans Saints. He gets to make all the draft picks. He gets to make most of the moves. Mickey's more on the financial side. He's got one of the best quarterbacks still in the NFL. He's a top 10 quarterback. Why give that up? What power are you going to get with the Indianapolis Colts or the Miami Dolphins? Are they going to give him complete autonomy to do whatever he wants? I don't know if he gets that. Plus, the Indianapolis' owner, Jim Irsay, he's a little strange, a little different. I don't know if he's going to get that kind of power there. I think he's going to stay with the Saints just because he can do what he wants with the New Orleans Saints, and that makes it easy on him. And, yes, the defense, they still have problems. I think Dennis Allen will probably be there. If Sean Payton is here next season, Dennis Allen will probably be here next season. So give him a full year. maybe he can figure out the problems. They obviously have a lot of problems on that side of the ball, but on the offensive side, they still look pretty smooth on that side.
Yeah, defensive side of the ball, more lack of talent more than anything else. Sharief, what's your take on all these splash reports? Does the fans really get up in an uproar because, some at this point are so sick of hearing them? They're saying, man, let him go. Some are saying you got to hold on to him. You can't let Peyton go. What's your take?
I look at it this way. Are you going to find someone better than Sean Payton at this point in time? Do you really want to start over with another coach? It's like, do you want the devil that you know, the devil that you don't know? Do you want to bring in a guy? You're complaining about Sean Payton. Yes, they went 7-9 last season. The possibility of finishing 7-9 or 6-10. You want to get a guy like Doug Marrone, and you say, oh well, he the familiarity with Doug Marrone. He was with Payton for a few years there in the early years of the Sean Payton Drew Brees era. He knows the system. Okay, let's say if you bring in Doug Marrone and they win 5 games, yes. Where are you going to be at with Drew Brees with maybe 1 year left on the contract when I think he does restructure? So what are you going to do there? You're going to complain again about, Doug Marrone only won 5 games this year. And so you really think that someone's going to be better than Sean Payton with Drew Brees right now? I think that Sean stays. I think it's going to be a better next 2 seasons, I guarantee, will be better than the last 2 seasons. I think you see the younger talent improving under Sean Payton. You got to like the club. They don't quit. That's one thing about this team. They do not quit, and they continually to improve the last 4 weeks.
Sharief, staying with you, where do you think these splash reports are coming from? A lot of us in the media believe that these seeds are being planted by Peyton's agent. Are you buying into that?
I'm buying it. I think it's agent. It has a lot to do with his agent bringing up a lot of these reports, maybe just to see what kind of feelers you can get out there just in case maybe the organization's like, oh, you know what, Sean, go ahead. We're done with it. We don't want to, deal with this anymore, just to see feelers. I think they're feelers. And I do think Sean wants to stay in New Orleans. I feel like he wants to be with Drew Brees, and Drew Brees wants to be with him. I think they have something good building with the young players they have on the team.
And I don't think Rappaport is definitely not getting it from Mickey Loomis.
Right.
Mickey Loomis has tried to discredit Rappaport numerous times.
Quickly, huh?
Yeah, and he once said that Ian gets 30% of his stories right. Mm-hmm. So they're not coming from Mickey Loomis, but
where do you think they're coming from, Garland? Do you think they're coming from the agents? Do you think they're coming from Peyton's camp?
That's a tough call, and it's always the same 2 guys. It's Locke and Fora and Rappaport.
And Rappaport, yes.
I mean, unless they're getting information fed to them, it's got to be outside sources on some of these. I don't think it's coming inside the building. Especially, it's not coming from Mickey Loomis on either side on that. And I don't know if Jay Glazer has something coming out.
That's what I would believe.
Gospel.
That's Sean's boy.
That's gospel.
Yeah. That's definitely happened if it's from Jay Glazer. When it's coming from these guys, I don't know. It's not coming from inside the building, but somebody outside.
Guys, both of you guys have covered this team for a while now, and some of you guys can remember even before they kind of changed the compound out there. They control the message out there, so much so that you guys got to get escorted anywhere you go now. You used to have free reign of the facility. Go talk to the secretaries, go talk to the ball boys, go talk to the people who are washing the clothes, go upstairs. You could go anywhere. That really went away when Kenny Wilkinson was summarily fired from WWL Radio because they were afraid that he was getting information from those individuals that are lifelong New Orleanians that are within the organization. So they've worked very, very hard over the last few years to control the message that's coming out of Airline Drive. And that's why when you hear some of this stuff, you got to say to yourself, well, it's probably not coming from the compound. It's got to be coming from someone outside the compound. And when it comes to Peyton, the obvious way to point this is at the agents.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that you got to be escorted everywhere. I used to work at WWL before I worked at Fox 8. I was looking at some old stories that Jim Henderson did in the 80s. They were in the training room with Chief Dan Simmons, who no longer is with the Saints. He's retired. They're in the training room during training camp, hanging out with them. They're getting taped up. They're having conversations, one-on-ones. They're doing stories with the ball boys and the training staff. Like, my head almost exploded. I was like, no way. I mean, they were driving around with the players during training camp in their cars and doing stories.
You don't get that kind of access anymore.
No, that doesn't happen anymore. And you're right. The Kenny Wilkerson, I'll never forget when they came back from Arizona in the Hazlitt years when Aaron Brooks and Charles Grant got in a fight on the team plane, and he reported that was almost the beginning of the end. And I recall he reported what also Roman Harper tore his ACL in his rookie year.
I guess the kicker was, and no pun intended, was it Jeremy Shockey kicking the drink machine and breaking a toe. But I guess the point is they control the message. With that said, okay, we understand maybe where the Peyton splash reports are coming from, but what about the report about Drew Brees this week. That Drew Brees will have to give the hometown discount. That Drew Brees, that the organization was not happy the way the last contract went, saying that he maximized his deal, and that's the reason why the Saints are in salary cap hell. I'll say this right now: reason why the Saints are in salary cap hell is not Drew Brees. Right. It's the misses on drafts, free agents, and re-signing their own. Sharief, what's your thoughts on, first of all, the re-signing of Drew Brees to a long-term deal, $30 million against the cap next year, $10 million if you cut or trade him. Obviously, they want to get him to a longer-term deal and make it more cap-friendly, but I don't see Drew Brees giving the hometown discount. Do you?
Nor should he. I don't think he needs to give a hometown discount. At the end of the day, who gave him that contract? Mickey Loomis gave it to him. Those guys said, hey, can you help us out? We're going to push it out. We're going to keep pushing the money back and back toward the final year of your contract. He never said, he never disagreed to it. I mean, you got to remember, the guy played his first contract, what was it, the 6-year, $60 million deal when he first got here, and
below market.
Didn't complain about it, and
right.
then finally got his new deal. So why should he take a hometown discount? I know Tom Brady did it, to go from 3 years to $3-year, $27 million deal. I think he'll do a little restructuring. Maybe not $20 million a year. Maybe they ask him to go 3 years, $17-18 million a year, just to help the team out a little bit. But you can't ask him to take a significant cut. The dude has done a lot for this organization throughout the years, and he's been the best player on the team. And like you said, bad drafts, Jarris Byrd, Brandon Browner, C.J. Spiller, the list goes on, the list goes on, and that's why this team is in trouble. Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton have missed on a lot of players in free agency as well as in the draft, and that's been the big reason why they're hurt. Don't blame it on the quarterback. He's been your best player for all these years.
Garland, what can you add?
Yeah, Drew Brees, $30 million next year against the salary cap. Obviously, that number's gonna have to be messed with. I think he does sign a contract extension. I don't think he needs to take a hometown discount. He's a warrior on that team. To play how he did against the Jacksonville Jaguars when he was injured with a plantar fascia injury, one of his best games of the season, thrown for over 400 yards. He's legit. He's your leader. He's not anytime close to retirement right now. He's going to be up there with Tom Brady. Peyton Manning might have 1 year left. This might be the end of the road for him in Denver with Brock Osweiler stepping up. But Brees has a few years left. Tom Brady has 2 or 3 or 4 years left. Brady hadn't had an injury in a while. I mean, Drew Brees has taken some hits this year and had some injuries this year. But I think Brees will restructure his contract, but he's going to get his in the end. You're going to probably pump up his numbers another year, but he's not going to play for $30 million next year contract.
On the same argument of Sean Payton, please tell me where you can find another quarterback who's going to average 4,000 plus yards, 30 touchdowns a year. I know he's 36 years old, going to be 37 in January. Find me someone that you can put behind him. Don't say find me someone that can replace him. I know there's some fans out there that are like, all right, it's time to move on. Be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
You're not going to move on from those stats and the way he leads this team right now. You need to groom someone behind him. Is it Garrett Grayson? I don't know that yet. I just don't know it may be him.
I don't think they know it yet.
No. Luke McCown and Matt Flynn and Garrett Grayson are not the answer in 2016. Garrett Grayson, you draft in the 3rd round. He's not a first-round talent. That's going to take a long time to develop, okay? It's going to take 2, 3, or 4 years down the line. Only time you get a big-time quarterback that can start right away is a first-rounder, and you're still going to go through some major bumps where you're going to go, 6-10, like Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota this year. I think they won 3 games this year, so you're going to go through those kind of trials and tribulations. So if you still want to win right away, which you still have that window with Drew Brees, if you can finally get your defense intact, get some better coaching. Obviously, Rob Ryan had a lot of problems with personnel. Too many men on the field. Sometimes he had 10 men on the field. Started in training camp and moved on to the regular season. So if you can get that side of the ball cleaned up, you have a shot for the playoffs because, the Panthers had a great season, but they could always go backwards. The Falcons are middle of the road, and so the Bucs.
Yeah. And guys, I'll say this. When you look at where this team is right now, not a solid draft. They're probably a couple more solid drafts away from again, really contending. They're going to have to shed a lot of salary in this offseason. It'll be interesting to see if they go the same route they went last season, trying to take some veterans with a little bit left in the tank and try to move those guys for draft choices to kind of enhance what they already have. But this year, it's going to have to be a situation where you don't just get those solid players. They need a couple superstars. They need some guys that can come in that can be game changers. This is a really critical draft for this organization going forward.
I would agree. I mean, obviously, I think, that first pick, they need someone on a defense, outside linebacker, in my opinion. If someone is there, maybe the guy from Oregon seems to be one of the picks. Somebody's maybe even saying Robert Kondichi, but I say, hey, guys had some off-the-field issues. You might want to stay away from that guy, even though he's that type of talent. I mean, you just
marijuana's bad news. I don't care where you are.
Yes, you just cleared the locker room of guys that were supposedly the bad eggs in the locker room. So I'm anxious to see what the Saints do with their draft pick. I don't want to talk about draft players and college players, but the guy from Clemson, I think his name's Shaq Lawson. Maybe he seems to be a pretty good player for the Saints if they can get him, or the outside linebacker from Notre Dame. Is it Jalen Smith? I doubt he'll be that high. Maybe even Laquan Treadwell, a big-time receiver. So you got to start with the draft, of course. They hit pretty well last year. They can do it again this year. They'll be in good shape.
Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, they did well this year in the draft. I mean, Andres Pete, Kakaha, Stephon Anthony. Obviously, Devin Breaux wasn't I guess you call him a rookie on a first year, So you got some good guys in there right now. You got some good rookies in there. So if they get another big class, obviously they had some major busts in 2014.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go through that again because they had a lot of bad players on the team. But they drafted well. Tyler Davidson looked good this year, and then
Damian Swan looked good. I mean, even though he was
we don't know how much longer. He had 3 concussions this year.
3 concussions.
And Davis Tull's going to be back next year.
And P.J. Williams is on injury reserve as well.
Tyler Davidson, like you said.
Yeah.
They got a lot of good building blocks.
It was
for
a
the team.
solid draft. No real superstars, but a draft that you can build a team. That's the type of pieces you need. With that said, guys, both Peyton and Breeze have come out this week and said they can't see themselves in any other uniform, helmet, or coaching another team. But yet Breeze has expressed that he wants to win. He's only got a small window. How does that jive? I mean, he said over the last couple days, meeting Breeze, that there's been a plan in place of again, rebuilding this franchise, and they're going to be on schedule doing that, and he's going to be here to see it. Sharief, first of all, you buy into that. I mean, this is a guy that's only got a limited amount of time left. He doesn't want to be languishing that on a below 500 team when he's still playing at a high level and could maybe win a championship elsewhere.
Buying, for sure, 100% buying. I mean, I like what Drew has said over the last 3 or 4 weeks about this team, and he's been right. He says, I see this team hitting a corner, and I see what we're building for the future. And like we discussed, all the young players they have on this team. You got to remember guys like Willie Snead, Brandon Cooks, even maybe Brandon Coleman, and he's starting to develop. He has 3 young receivers out there that he can throw the ball to. Maybe another offensive line. And I think that's where it comes, where Drew may shift some of his money just so he can get a little other help on the offensive line. And, of course, what he does with that money to help the defense. But I think he's right. I think they are, close to being a playoff team once again in next season and possibly the following year because of what they have there with those building blocks.
One of the only places I could see him going, but you got to understand, if Breeze is gone, Peyton's gone.
Oh,
This
yeah.
isn't.
I think they're tied at the hip.
Yeah, this isn't a half and half deal. One of the only places I could see Drew Brees going, and the Saints could probably get a first-round pick for him, would be Houston. If they had Drew Brees, they're Super Bowl contenders because that defense is ferocious. They're going to make the playoffs with Brian Hoyer being quarterback and Ryan Mallett for a little while.
Yates.
You're
right.
And now they're on Brandon Weeden, and they'll probably be back to Hoyer this week, but they're going to make the playoffs. Imagine if they had a Drew Brees on that team. They would be Super Bowl contenders. That is one of the only places I could see him going. But if you're going to blow it all the way up, which I don't suggest for the Saints, then you could probably get 3 first-round picks because you trade Drew Brees to a team like the Texans for their first-round pick, and then you could either go to Tennessee and get their first-round pick. I mean, you got to look at it. John Gruden, when he went – now, John Gruden was much higher was a hot guy at the time.
But hadn't won a Super Bowl yet.
No, and they got
2 number ones,
yeah,
2 number twos, $8 million.
And if the Saints asked for 1 first-round pick for the Tennessee Titans, now obviously Chip Kelly's getting a lot of run because he coached Marcus Mariota at Oregon, but if you can get Sean Payton to the Tennessee Titans with a trade, or the Miami Dolphins, or the Indianapolis Colts, that's a top 20 pick. So if you're going to blow it up, you could get 3 first-round picks in the top 20 or so. I don't suggest it, though.
But neither one of you guys think that's happening.
No.
You don't think they're blowing it up. You think Peyton and Breeze are here at least for the next few years.
I think 2 years. I think, Peyton has 2 years left after this year. I think what Drew will do is extend his contract at least 1 more year. So he'll play the 17, 16 and 17 seasons, and I think that will probably be, we'll revisit it again and see where we are with this franchise and what progressions that they made in those 2 years. I think it stays the same.
Right.
About a month ago, I maybe thought they should blow the whole thing up. But just watching Breeze fight through this injury right now and seeing on this offense, they have really no problems on this offense.
No. They need another playmaker on the offensive side of the ball. They need some help now that, Jari Evans is sunsetting. Obviously at this point, when you look at Zach Sharief, more than likely Pete's going to be in that spot. But they need another guard that they're going to have to bring in. They have to upgrade there. And you'd like to see somebody that the defense has to account for on the field every time, in addition to a guy like Brandon Cooks at the receiver position. You'd like to see. I like what we've seen out of Brandon Coleman. I mean, the guy got here, he couldn't catch with his hands. Now he's catching everything outside of his body. So you're seeing a progression there. I think that, tight end, you'll have to start looking now because Ben Watson is getting a little bit up in age. But you know what? That's a position where I think they can grow and groom someone. So they're not that far away from offense. Defense is where they got to look.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing them. This is my bias coming out of me. Deion Jones.
Oh,
a guy who
how
could
great
cover.
Has he played?
He was good in his senior year. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. Tackles.
Yes.
Is explosive. He covered.
Great speed.
Great speed. I mean, that's not like Sean Payton now. Great speed.
True.
Tackles. Instinctive. But that's what, watching him in a Texas Bowl, the way he covered, what he did against Florida, the way he covered receivers and tight ends, I mean, that's what the Saints need. How many years have we been talking about the Saints not being able to cover a tight end?
Yeah.
Probably since the existence of the franchise. A guy like a Deion Jones, a young player in college, I mean, not in the first round, obviously.
Right.
You get him to second or third round, and that's a steal. You get a guy like him, put him in the outside with Stephon Anthony and Kikaha out there, that's another good young core.
Guys, there was another splash report this week about within the organizational chart that Mickey Loomis, his duties would change, and I'll use the quote from the report: overarching and more of a micro level with less emphasis on the Saints, more emphasis on the Pelicans. I've talked about this on my radio show now for about 2 months, that the Saints, in order to be successful in the future, probably kick Mickey Loomis up to maybe a president of the organization, the teams, and then a general manager in place in both football and basketball, and then of course the head coaches. On the football side, that general manager would be working hand in hand with Peyton if he's still here. That would probably be Jeff Ireland, but it'll be interesting to see if that ends up happening. What's your vibe? What are you hearing? Do you think that ultimately that happens, where there's less of an emphasis for Loomis on the Saints and maybe more of a micro view of both franchises as maybe president of operations?
I don't think Jeff Ireland came in here to be where he is in his current job.
Agreed.
He must have got some kind of promise. You're the general manager, and now you're just in scouting and personnel. I believe there's something greater promised for Jeff Ireland. Both organizations drafting are a mess right now, or financially with this contracts. I think somebody needs to watch Dell Demps more right now than watch Sean Payton, obviously, because Sean's making all the picks. I think that the Pelicans are easily, you could call, I guess the word be a mess, would be an easy assumption right there. So I think maybe more needs to be watched on the Pelicans side, and maybe that's where Mickey Loomis's eye should be. Not on scouting talent.
No.
That's not his thing, especially in basketball. But somebody needs to watch out for Dell more often, because Dell's had free reign for a long time. And we got first round, A seed, and this year, I'm not going to blow up the season completely with the Pelicans yet. I know we'll probably talk about the Pelicans more, but the West, that 7th and 8th seed, it's a lot of garbage teams right now at 12 and 18. The Pelicans could, I know it's insane to say, but they can still get in the playoffs with a really awful record. Though that means getting swept by Golden State in the first round.
Yeah. Sharief, what's your thoughts on this? Do you think that there is a move afoot within the organization to maybe change the organizational chart with Loomis overseeing the team operations for both franchises?
I could see that. They certainly do need to do something like that. That would be good for the Pelicans more than the Saints, I'll tell you that much. A lot of wasted money is being spent with the Pelicans. And I can name names, Ishaq, Agensa. I mean, there's a lot of money going away. So a guy like Mickey Loomis can certainly maybe go in there and say, hey, we can't have that. We're wasting money on both sides of the franchises. I need to somehow get in here and focus more on that and have Jeff Ireland look over as the GM for the Saints. And Sean, of course, will be in control of a lot of, the decisions, the personnel being picked up. And he is the GM without being the GM, I feel like. That's what I want to say for the Saints as we speak. He's the guy who's making those type of personnel moves as well. So I could see it happen. I could see him overlooking as the president of both teams, which it's a good role for him. It'd be a perfect fit for him.
The other big splash report this week was really not a splash report, but again, it caught the city caught fire with the front page op-ed piece by Jeff Duncan imploring the Tom Benson to sell the franchises, taking a hard look at what may be coming down the pike here in terms of the court cases that have to do with which side of the family ultimately controls the franchises. I'll take you first on this one, Garland. Garland, first of all, do you believe that Tom Benson will sell these franchises? Do you believe that he should sell the franchises? And what do you think about Jeff's op-ed piece?
I don't think he's going to sell the teams. First off, Sharief and you can both attest this, no one wants to be told what to do.
Exactly.
I never want to be told what to do unless it's from my news director, my assistant news director, my GM. Not from somebody else in another building telling me what to do. I don't think it's ever going to happen. He's going to give those teams to his wife. That's what he wants to do, and that's what's going to happen. There's no way he would ever sell those teams. He is making way too much money right now, and they're about to kick in a new TV contract with the NBA where even the bottom feeder teams are going to make a lot of money.
Yes.
There is zero chance. I read the article. It was a good article, but it's just not going to happen. When I read it, I almost want to say it was almost fictional writing because you just knew that this was kind of like a dream because it's not. I mean, not anybody. I'm not saying somebody's dream. Like I can't wait for this to happen.
Right.
Just that it's not going to happen. It's just out there. It's it's fiction writing because I just didn't think it was going to happen. Tom Benson's going to stay with that team. He built that team from nothing and brought it up to getting Jim Moore in there and getting into playoffs and the winning playoff games and winning the Super Bowl. And he wants to do the same thing in the NBA now. He's got some time left. He's still a sharp guy. I know the day-to-day operations he's not involved in as much, but he's around and he's going to want to win. And I don't believe for no chance that he's going to let go of those teams.
Sharief?
I'll start with the article. Jeff wrote an op-ed, as you said. He did a good job with it, and I think he's taken a lot of heat for it.
Unnecessary heat.
Unnecessary heat. People read the headline and didn't read the story in some cases.
Agreed.
Jeff knows what he's doing. He's not just trolling people.
Right.
It was written well. He gave credit
and it was factual as well.
Yeah, factual. He gave a lot of credit to Tom Benson, and he also pointed out some of the negatives, but there were a lot of positives. He wasn't saying he should sell the team and move it. No. He was saying sell the team to local, and stop prolonging the whole situation in court because it might.
Because we've seen what has happened in other cities with other franchises.
Yeah, absolutely.
The original succession plan has been blown up now. If it would have been left as it was, as for a tax shelter, you wouldn't have these problems that they're going to be facing down the line here now. If and when Mr. Benson passes, that ultimately IRS can come in and can make it real tough on the heirs to be able to hold on to these franchises. And in some cases, it's maybe in the best interests of those individuals that are in charge to take a hard look at that going forward so that ultimately their heirs are able to share in the riches of those franchises and not having to sell it for tax proceeds down the line. And that was pretty much the gist of the article more than anything else. And we'll see what happens down the line here in terms of the court case and the 3 R's versus what's going on with Gail Benson and that situation. But ultimately, it's Mr. Benson's franchises. He can do what he wants with them. But at the same time, I do agree with Jeff, and always have agreed with, and always have said this. The original franchise for the New Orleans Saints was awarded to the city of New Orleans, and then they found an owner. Okay, unlike most cities where they award it to the owner within the city. It was a completely different situation because of Hale Boggs and the antitrust legislation that went through Congress back then, a promise that New Orleans would get a franchise. It's a little different situation here. But also, I have it on good authority, and I'm sure Jeff told me today on my program the same thing. Guys, I know you know it because you're in the media. The NFL and the NBA are committed to New Orleans. They're not moving these franchises. These are the Gulf Coast franchises, and they're domiciled in New Orleans. They're not going anywhere.
I agree. It's a much different story than the Raiders, Rams,
Absolutely.
Chargers. Their contracts are done with their stadiums. Here, they're stuck. I don't say stuck here.
It's 2025.
They want, they want to be here. I know where Jeff was going with that.
Yes.
Tom Benson isn't going to sell the team, but I know what Jeff was saying in terms of just getting rid of the ugly court stuff and getting out of the way and having not to worry about all that stuff. But I agree with Jeff.
Anything you can add?
Yeah, no, it's funny. You talk about Jeff. Jeff's gonna be. We have game plan where you get you ready for each
Yes.
week at 10:35 tomorrow night, or sorry, tonight 10:35. Jeff is on there and he's going to talk about this even further with Wonk and Cade and Sean Fazan, two of our great NFL. Sean's our beat reporter, but Juan does a great job with the NFL also. It definitely got a lot of people fired up, and I think that's the thing that you just pointed out. A lot of people caught fire with Jeff is that they thought the organizations could leave if they were sold. I just don't see that. This isn't George Shinn selling the team right now and trying to figure out who's going to buy it. I just don't. There's not a lot of money in this city. I don't know. Even you have to get a lot of groups together. I mean, Gary Schwest had a shot to get in on the Hornets / Pelicans now, and he's one of the richest people we have in our area, and he didn't want any part of majority ownership.
Right.
I don't know who else is really be out there that could put that much.
$2 billion. It's going to be close to $2 billion probably.
You could put a.
You still have to have one person who's going to be the majority owner,
Right.
who has to put the majority of the cash. You could have, as it's been mentioned, the Mannings as minority partners, but they would be minority partners, okay? They would have a piece of the franchise, or other New Orleanians, that may have want to step up and get involved in this group. But ultimately, you still have to have one person that has deep pockets that can buy the franchise, and more than likely, it's coming from outside of the city.
Yeah, Gary Schwest is on the bayou. Maybe John Georges has a nice little empire that he's built up. But I can't. I mean, obviously, I'm not a political or financial guy. I work in sports. But everybody knows who's got the big money around here. Boise Bollinger with the shipyards has some good money, but they don't have billions.
Right.
So that's going to be interesting. And another thing to watch for, and I think a lot of Saints fans would like. They were talking about, and Jeff was talking about in his article, to give the Mannings minority ownership and bring in Peyton as a personnel guy. Well, I would think maybe something to sweeten Drew Brees' contract up is, I don't know, probably with the CBA they can't get that in there, but they could give a handshake agreement on the side. If you ride this, if you do us well right now, you could be personnel.
You'll be John Elway.
I mean,
with the Broncos.
I mean, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Drew Brees spends his whole offseason in San Diego. Once that season's over, he's gone.
Right.
And I told numerous people on numerous occasions that Drew Brees is not, once he retires from the Saints, he's gone.
That's right.
Well, I'm not going to, who's going to blame him? He
No.
played in San Diego. He has, I think it's a $6 million house in San Diego. The weather's 70 degrees every day. I understand that's where he's lived for most of his last 10 or so years. It's got a beautiful house. The beach is right there. But if you want to guarantee that Drew Brees is the face of your franchise for a long time, like John Elway, you keep him around, give him a 3-year deal, and maybe offer him a front office position.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night right here on WLAE at 6 p.m. On Fridays, you can catch us at 9 p.m. on Pelican Sports Television in the New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette markets. And right back here at 10 p.m. on WLAE-TV. Sharief Ishaq at WDSU Channel 6 Sports. Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports are our guests. We'll be right back. We'll talk a little LSU, Pelicans, and Tulane coming up next. Don't go anywhere.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by.
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television. Find us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Great panel for you tonight. Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports, Sharief Ishaq of WDSU Channel 6 Sports. Guys, let's shift gears to the Pelicans. Not a good season, considering what was expected of this franchise going forward. This is the healthiest they've been all season long. With the exception of Quincy Pondexter, everyone is available. Everyone is playing. Drew Holiday's still on some limited minutes. That should be ending within the next week or so. But what we've been hearing a lot of, and it's been the overarching theme of this year, and it's come from the two mainstays of the franchise, which is Alvin Gentry and also Anthony Davis. A selfish team, a lazy team, doesn't play hard. You know, I talked about it on my radio show earlier this week. I put something out on social media on Friday about this. You know, it's a blessing and a curse to be able to have so many great shooters on this team. And when you look at the roster on paper, you look at it and you say, man, this is gaudy. I mean, you look at Ryan Anderson, you're looking at guys like Eric Gordon, you're looking at the ability to be able to drive the basketball with Tyreke Evans and Drew Holiday. You've got Anthony Davis. You've got a big man. You got two big men in Agenza and also the big center,
Ishaq. Okay, yeah.
All right, but that's on paper. These guys are selfish. They don't play defense. We now can see that Monty Williams got the maximum out of this team last year. They were listening to him. But when you have your superstar, one of the top players in the NBA, that's criticizing the team for lack of effort, lack of defense, and selfishness, when the coach is constantly complaining about what's going on, there's a major problem here. Now, look, I'm not a big fan of Dell Demps. Some have said, Bradley Handwerker on this program 3 years ago said, that he has put together a fantasy basketball team, but at the end of the day, it's like I said on the show this week. If you're cut and you're bleeding, and the only doctor in the house is a doctor that's not that good, but he's a doctor, you're going to let the doctor operate on you. You got to stop the bleeding. At this point, they got to stop the bleeding. And as much as I'd like to see the $32 million in contracts for Anderson, Gordon, Cole, Perkins, G, and Babbitt go away at the end of the season and have that money along with the expanded TV money that's going to be coming in from the NBA to be able to go out and get a free agent, I'm sorry. Anthony Davis are not free agents, quality free agents are not coming to New Orleans to play for a lottery team. They're not doing it. So at this point, you're kind of between a rock and a hard place. You almost have to blow this thing up. And you got to get some players on this team that are unselfish, that are willing to play defense, and have to realize who the superstar is. I think this needs to be a situation where they go inside out with the offense, not outside in. A lot of these guys, they believe that, and they're all good shooters. Every time they cross half court, they believe that they're going to take their shot and it's going to go in. The problem is you got too many possessions where you're taking long distance shots, not getting anything out of them, empty possessions, and Anthony Davis doesn't get touches. It's frustrating. It's led to what we're seeing right now with a team that lacks an identity, is not cohesive. This coming together at the end of the season, saying we're going to keep everybody together, has failed. I think we've seen enough of that now. Sharief, I'll take you first. What do the Pelicans need to do going forward?
Pray.
Yeah.
There you go. Because they bring in Alvin Gentry from the Golden State Warriors. They say, hey, Dell Demps says, here's your team. Run this team like the Golden State Warriors. Who's Steph Curry? Who's Klay Thompson?
Right.
Who's Draymond Green? Who's Harrison Barnes? Who's Bogut? They don't have any of those players. They have Anthony Davis. And now Anthony Davis has become a shooter. They went away for what Anthony Davis does. Well, it's in the paint.
Yeah, in the paint.
Hook shots, dunks, rebounds, blocks.
They don't have a guy that can throw the lob to him.
All of his stats have fallen off since last year because they want to run and gun. And now they're slowing it down like it was Monty Williams all over again. Now you have one big confused team. They don't know what they want to do, no identity, no idea with all these players who do not fit in this puzzle at all. So unlike this, you don't blow up the Saints, you need to blow up the Pelicans. That's where it needs to be blown up. I think the Saints are in way better shape than the Pelicans saying that because they need to get rid of those big contracts. If someone out there wants Amir Ashik's contract, you send it away.
Yes.
If somebody wants Ryan Anderson, I know he's a good shooter, but send it away. It's time to really rebuild this entire team around Anthony Davis. I mean, he's the piece.
Yes.
He needs to be the guy. And right now, he's unhappy. And I agree with him. Lazy, no effort. They don't care. They really don't care.
No.
You're going to go out there. They're not playing defense at all.
None.
Inconsistent. They play good against the Rockets, followed up against the Magic with a dud. That's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't understand what the problem is. I just think that it's too relaxed atmosphere for them. They need a disciplinarian out there. They don't need somebody out there just telling them, hey, you know what? Let what's the saying? Let the crazies run the asylum.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
Well, and also, guys, I mean, when you draw up a play on the sidelines at a timeout and you come out and you don't run that play, that tells you they're not listening. They're not hearing what's going on
That's
here.
Tyreek Evans.
And that's a problem. And look, I like Tyreek Evans.
I do
but
too.
Tyreek Evans doesn't fit with Anthony Davis.
No.
You need a guy that is looking to get Anthony Davis the ball, not a guy that's looking to get his shot. No way. If it's not there, well, then I'll look for the big superstar.
I don't want to see you dribble, 5 seconds.
Right.
Jump shot. That's not how this offense works.
Agreed.
You got to get it into Davis.
Garland?
We're talking about this team's healthy. One funny thing is Coupon. It's like Christmas or Groundhog Day every day. We keep hearing he's getting closer.
Yeah,
and closer.
closer, yeah.
He's got to be getting closer. You got to. I'm not saying that he's going to solve all the ills, but they're almost getting healthy. And I will say this: I'm going to go a little positive. I know there's a lot of problems. I'm just trying to focus on this year alone. At least Drew Holiday's minute restriction is going to be up.
Yes.
And hopefully Drew can handle the ball a lot more than Tyreek Evans, because that killed him in the Christmas Day game when they had to call timeout twice. And Alvin Gentry pretty much called out Tyreek after the game for running the wrong play and having to call a timeout with 8 seconds to go in regulation. And then when I'm getting up a bad shot by Anthony Davis. But you get at least Drew off the minute restriction. At least he's going to play a lot more minutes. Ryan Anderson, I saw the rumor trade with Markieff Morris. I think it's an awful deal because Markieff Morris has 2 years left on his contract.
He's got 3 years left on his deal at about 8.5.
I don't want guys that have all these contract left.
And off-court issues.
Plus, he's got off
that.
the court. I mean, throwing a towel at the coach.
Yeah.
The gun charge in Arizona. A malcontent because his twin brother got traded to Detroit. I mean, you don't need another problem here.
I will say this, and I know Ryan Anderson's contract's up at the end of the year, but he's one of the rocks of the team right now. Right. If you trade Ryan Anderson, you're pretty much saying this is over with.
Right.
We're looking for the future.
But it's about assets, and how many assets do you have, where you can move them. I mean, look, I don't trust Dell Demps. I mean, Dell Demps is the guy that gave Omer Sheik 5 years, $58 million, which really is a 4-year, $44 million guaranteed contract for a guy that's in his 30s that won't make the contract. That now you realize, wait a minute, he can't play. So now you're gonna package him in any deal that you go just to move the salary. When, my gosh, Greg Monroe was sitting out there begging to come to New Orleans, and you could have done something to be able to get that guy in here. Imagine having those two as twin towers right now. And I think that's the direction they got to go, guys. I think they've got to get another big man. Joakim Noah is on the block right now. In the last year of his $13 million deal, this guy is a passing center. He's a smart guy. I mean, there are some players out here that you could bring in right now that could mesh with Anthony Davis, but he's got to be the focal point here. And you seem to have 4 guys on the court with Davis that are looking for theirs and not looking for the best for the team.
That's the problem. I mean, you have to give it to the player who just got a $145 million contract. This isn't about you jacking up shots when you cross half court. This isn't the type of team like the Golden State Warriors.
Agreed.
Steph Curry is not on your team. You're not making those three-pointers. I'm sorry. I mean, it's a lot of selfish basketball. And I think you can see Anthony Davis is frustrated. I wonder if he's now thinking, why did I sign that contract if I knew it was going to be a 10-win team?
Well, we've seen it, guys. We've seen it here with Baron Davis. We've seen it here with Chris Paul. It doesn't take much for a superstar to force their way out. He hangs around with all these upper echelon superstars in the offseason. They're in his ear. You know, you're not going to do it in New Orleans. What are you doing down there? You need to get with a better team, etc. And eventually he'll push his way out. But Garland, Dell Demps has made a lot of mistakes here. This is Dell Demps' team. His fingerprints are all over this. Basically on a 1-year deal. Do you trust him to blow this thing up?
No. That's why we talked about before, Mickey Loomis might have to watch the Pelicans a little more than the Saints right now. They're probably going to have to cut the cord on Dell very soon. If the show, Anthony, they mean business of getting this team better. Anthony Davis signed because he was optimistic that Alvin Gentry could produce the same thing in Golden State, and it hasn't worked out. So now you have to reaffirm to Anthony that you want to be a champion. So to show that, you might have to get rid of Dell Demps to show that you're serious about winning. In the offseason, I don't know who you're going to get. Obviously, any talk of Kevin Durant was I wouldn't say it was foolish before the season started.
But now it's crazy talk.
Now it's crazy talk. But before the season, you could maybe see that Alvin Gentry could have a push-up style, the style we have yet to see, where they're scoring 120 points a game. That's not happening yet. And with Anthony Davis, now that's dream world. He's probably gonna resign with Oklahoma City because Oklahoma City looks pretty strong this year. So and Russell Westbrook and Serge Ibaka and those guys. But for the Pelicans to move forward. Now, if you want to trade Ryan Anderson, those guys away right now, you're pretty much saying that the season's over with and you moved on. A lot of people think it is over with, but I like to cover winners.
Right.
And we've covered a lot of bad teams
Yes.
this year between LSU football and the Saints and Tulane football and LSU basketball right now. I just want to see. I want to cover some postseason. So maybe I'm a little selfish right now that they still have a shot to make the playoffs. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but I'm not that crazy. I mean, they're 4 games out right now.
But Garland, I'll say this: I don't think just because you jettison Tyreek Evans, Ryan Anderson, Eric Gordon, Amir Sheik, some of these pieces that don't fit, that all of a sudden you're conceding that you're going to be a lottery team. I think if you stay with status quo, you're conceding you're going to be a lottery team. Because I think at this point you still have some time. If you blow this up, you bring the right pieces in, the way the bottom of the West is right now, you may be able to get on a little bit of a win streak here and energize the franchise a bit and start to win. I think that by staying pat, you're saying to yourself, you know what, we're in the Ben Simmons sweepstakes.
And Dylan Dell, he hit one finally with coupon last year, but that got an AC, that's it. So the other problem I got is, you could blow this whole thing up, but guess who's going to restructure
I know.
it? Dylan Dell. And right now it's not working. So that's the problem I have right now. Maybe you stay status quo this year, see if you can make a little run of playoffs, and then blow this whole thing up in the offseason and say, you know what, it didn't work. Let's get rid of this guy, this guy, and this guy.
Well, it's like I said, guys, when you're bleeding and you need a doctor, even though the doctor may have a malpractice suit against him, at the end of the day, he's the only doctor in the room, so you better get him to patch you up. And the Pelicans have put themselves in this position because continuity was the big buzzword in the offseason. A team that loves each other, that gets along. And this doesn't seem like a team that they may like each other off the court, but they're definitely not playing for each other, are they, Sharief?
It doesn't seem like it when you only have 10 wins. You got to – listen, I'm going to be on the negative side of this. You got to blow this thing up.
No, not negative side.
Come on.
I'm kidding.
Only 2 players I'd want to keep on this team right now are Drew and AD.
Yes.
Those are the only 2 guys that, I'd like to keep Ryan, but he's an asset.
Yes,
you need to get some – you have to get something in return. And if you could trade Ishaq, that would be an unbelievable trade.
I wouldn't mind keeping Coupon. I mean, the guy played through injury last year.
He's a good defensive player. I'd keep him
and
too
he
for
probably
bench
would.
wise.
He's got heart. I mean, he's got some Drew Brees tendencies.
Yeah.
He could have sat out at the end of last season, but he fought, and obviously he paid for it right now, not coming back. Because probably if he would have sat himself out at the end of last year, he'd have probably been playing now. So I like those kind of guys.
They're not bad guys. They're not bad people.
No, they're good people.
It's a bad
they're
team.
Just not a team.
Not a good team.
Right.
Good guys, bad team.
Right.
You know?
And somebody's got to be over there if it's going to kick them in the butt, because it's not working right now. The comments that are being made by the head coach and the superstar normally pique the ears of these players. It's like it's nonchalant. It's like it's falling on deaf ears for them. And I think that's frustrating. It's frustrating for the fan base. 15,000 strong, they bought season tickets in anticipation of a pretty good year. Let's shift gears to the LSU Tigers. It looked like last night Les Miles was going to be Les Miles status quo, at least early in the game, as he continued to feed Leonard Fournette. What was it, 9 of the first 12 plays were running plays to Fournette? Look, I've been one to criticize Les Miles because of the offense, and rightly so. But I think we saw last night a little glimpse of the challenge that the coaches have right now. I think they probably like to open the offense up a little more, but I don't know if they trust the quarterback. Brandon Harris had a horrendous first half, missing on plays with something we've seen really since the Alabama game, the lack of accuracy, especially under pressure when the pressure's on, doesn't have a tremendous amount of accuracy. Second half, he rebounded. He started throwing the ball with accuracy, and all of a sudden, the lane started to open up. Texas Tech had to drop out of their 10, 11 guys in the box, had to start playing the Tigers straight up. You saw running lanes. So, again, I criticized him for lack of imaginative offense. But Garland, at the same time, I think that you got to look at who's manning the quarterback position right now, and that might have a lot of the byproduct of what we saw, especially down the stretch against SEC teams, the inability or the unwillingness to throw the football.
Well, you know what? They might have found some small glimmer of hope with moving Cam Cameron to the sidelines. They did for the first time last night, and Coach Miles said, 2 nights ago, Coach Miles said that Cam Cameron talked to him about it. Brandon Harris asked for it, and it looked like it made a difference. I know everybody's really excited about how many points they put up, but we got to pump the brakes a little.
A little.
It was the Red Raiders, one of the worst defenses in college football. I will say this: I was impressed with the defensive play last night. I mean, Kendall Beckwith was in the backfield every play. Deion Jones, we're
Sharief
talking
went
about,
to
did they did a great job. And Arden Key, I mean, he's the next big thing on the line. He's your next Barkevius Mingo, it looks like. I think Brandon Harris just needs more time. He's gonna, you know why he needs more time? Because there's no one else. He's only a sophomore,
right.
And I know they got the transfer from Purdue that might get a shot. Anthony Jennings isn't the answer. Felipe Franks bailed on him. So they're riding with.
But can you roll the dice going into next season with Brandon Harris as your guy? You've got to do something.
But Matt Flynn and Matt Mock were not great quarterbacks either. They were game managers.
Yes.
You have to put him in the right situations where it's single coverage on the outside. Do not force him to, a lot of out plays, kind of curl in out 5 yards, sticks plays. The play over the middle was a ballsy call. It got intercepted trying to hit the tight end. You can put him in a winning situation. I know next year they're going to put 9 and 10 in a box again against Leonard Fournette. The problem wasn't in the Alabama game wasn't Brandon Harris as much. It wasn't the offense. It was the offensive line.
But
they didn't show up.
If they could have thrown the football a little bit, they would have loosened up that Alabama front. Sharief, what's your take here on the quarterback position? Is it maybe the lack of trust that maybe held this offense back this season in terms of being more diverse?
Lack of trust with Brandon Harris?
Yes.
I think that he's still trying to learn the playbook 2 years as the quarterback. I think as a true sophomore, you're still learning. I want to see what's between the ears in his third year. I said it before the season, LSU would lose 3 games. They'd be in the playoffs next year. And I think they will be in the playoffs next year.
Bold prediction.
Bold prediction. I will tell you that next year I think they'll be one of the final 4 teams.
Well, they should be. On paper, they're going to be every bit as looked at as every other team out there.
Brandon needs to work on intermediate passes. He throws the ball way too hard from 5 yards away.
Horrible mechanics.
It's just not good to zip the ball from 5 yards away. You know what happens? Balls get deflected, balls get intercepted, momentum shifts the other way. He needs to learn a little touch, a little change-up. That's something that he has to develop between now and start of next season. Who will be the offensive coordinator? I don't know. Will they renew Cam Cameron's contract?
That's the word right now, that Cam Cameron's coming back. Now, whether that is just coach speak for the media, that's one of the things that's been talked about over and over again. Miles doesn't like to get rid of his assistants. It'll be interesting to see there. We know, at least at this point, from media reports that have been coming out, there's going to be a change of defensive coordinator.
100%.
Right. Kevin Steele is going to Auburn. The question is, will Miles reach into the pool of candidates that he had last year when the chief left, or will he elevate Ed Ogeron? I think a lot of the LSU faithful would like to see Ed Ogeron elevated. What is your take?
That's if Bebe wants that job.
Right.
That's if he wants that responsibility. Does he want to be a defensive coordinator? I mean, Garland will probably chime in on this. Does he want that responsibility? Does he want to stay with the defensive line, which he's done an amazing job with the guys like Arden Key and Devon Godshaw and numerous other guys, Tayshawn Bowers. He's gotten those guys, Lewis Neal. He's gotten a lot out of the guys that, quite frankly, not many of us thought would be that good of a defensive line, but had 5-6 sacks against Texas Tech. I mean, I know they're much bigger than that offensive line, but he's done a good job with that front, with the defensive line. Let's see if he wants. Let's see if he pushes to become defensive coordinator.
Right. Now, both you guys are in Baton Rouge covering that team during the year. Garland, you're up there. You got the vibe. What's happening? I mean, what do you think is going to happen with that defensive coordinator?
Coach O is a great recruiter, and he's not going to USC, which was big for LSU. You lose Steele as a key recruiter, but you still got Frank Wilson, which is the gold standard.
And Corey Raymond.
Yeah, and Corey Raymond. Coach O, I'm sure, wants to be a head coach one time again. He showed it at USC as an interim coach that he can do it. Obviously, Ole Miss was a disaster. Your great recruiter wasn't a good coach.
But let's face it, he upgraded the talent at Ole Miss tremendously.
Yes. But, yeah, he just couldn't coach the talent, which we've seen around here a few times with Tulane. The guy before could recruit, and the next guy won with like Tommy Bowden with Buddy Stevens, Same thing with Bob Toledo. You got a talent, you can maybe upgrade him a little. But that's going to be interesting with Coach Ogeron, because if he wants to be a head coach again, you have to take a responsibility of being the DC, because no AD in America is going to be like, wait a second, you had that shot to be the defense coordinator at LSU and you turned it down.
Right.
You don't get that shot again. I don't know who else. I'm not an expert at defensive coordinators are out there in college football, but
Gene Chizik was one name that's been dropped for a while. Now the former Auburn coach is maybe a guy that Miles was looking at last year to bring in, and ultimately didn't bring him in. Only thing I worry about the Kevin Steele situation is recruits that maybe he has been recruiting, and maybe those recruits now may be leaning toward Auburn because of their relationship with Coach Steele. But other than that, I'll be honest with you, I thought the defense took a step down with Coach Steele as the defensive coordinator this year, and I think they're going to have to shore this thing up going into next season. I agree with you, Sharief. You look at the defensive line, Ogeron's done a great job with it. Corey Raymond has left a lot to be desired in terms of the defensive backfield, which was thought to be one of the tops in the nation. Has proven they haven't been. The linebackers got better. I mean, look at Deion Jones. He's going to be he's going to the NFL. I mean, he's going to be playing on Sundays. So we'll see what happens there. Before we get out of here, I did want to mention Tulane. The audience knows that I was not happy with the search. I thought that Arnie Filko should have gotten an opportunity to be at least interviewed. I thought that the airline drive had too much of an influence on what was going on with the Tulane selection. But with that said, you got to give a lot of credit to the president of Tulane University. Troy Dannon looks like a home run at athletic director, and Willie Fritz looks like a heck of a head football coach. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Willie Fritz, I mean, he's won everywhere he's gone. Georgia Southern, Sam Houston State, junior college football. I like the hire. It's intriguing to see Tanner Lee try to run this offense next year. I know he's trying to make a run at the Zachary quarterback, Lindsey Scott. So he's trying to get his own guys in there because he already ran off the Oxford quarterback that threw for 54 touchdowns this year. But he was more of a spread them out guy, and that's just not what Willie Fritz does. I think this kind of offense will probably be difficult for defend in the American Athletic Conference. So I'm all in on him. Troy Dannon, all in on him too. He's gonna have to make a lot of hirings and firings in the next 6 months probably. With the basketball program is hitting some hard times too with Coach Conroy, just an average program over the last 6 years. So he's going to have a lot of work going forward, but I like the hire with Willie Fritz.
Sharief, you're out at Tulane for their press conferences. You cover the team. What are your thoughts?
To get a guy that's won almost 200 games in his career, you can't really complain. That was a home run hire by Troy. Troy did a great job with hiring Willie Fritz, a guy who's going to bring excitement back into the program, winning, because that's the first and most important thing. The fans have been tired of losing. Brand new stadium. You can't put a stadium in the middle of campus and win 15 games in the last 4 years. I know they've only had the stadium for 2 years, but that's not what the.
Got to generate some kind of excitement.
Yeah.
Get them to the game, not just the new building.
Yeah, you can't do that to your fan base. Right. To get Willie in there, Coach Willie is going to do an amazing job. Can't wait to see what the offense he runs, that option offense is going to be amazing. Did a good job at Georgia Southern, winning 17 games the last 2 years, and they won their bowl game pretty when it did it in convincing fashion with those guys. So I think he's going to be in good shape. I think Troy is going to have to do some searching, as Garland says, when it comes to the men's basketball team. Women's basketball team will be fine. They've always Coach Stockton's always done a good job, but what could Coach Conroy do? Can they win some games here in American, or is this it for him? So I know Troy, coming from Northern Iowa, basketball school, built the football program really well. So I just don't see him messing around. He wants to win in all the sports.
Yeah, and of course his basketball program is in the NCAA's.
His coach is a red-hot coach at Northern Iowa. They've beaten 2 top 5 teams this year. I don't know if he can convince him to come to Tulane, but I looked at his resume the other day. It is pretty sparkling.
Garland, Gillen, Sharief, Ishaq, thanks so much for being with us tonight on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also on Pelican Sports Television in the New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette markets at 9 p.m. You can catch me on the radio, 990 a.m. WGSO, weekdays, 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. The TuneIn Radio app is a great way to take the show with you anywhere. And you can also listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. You can check out all the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports at ericasher.com as well. Again, special thanks to our guest tonight, Sharief Ishaq, and also Garland Gillen. My name is Eric Asher. Thanks so much for watching tonight. Also, special thanks to our staff here at WLAE. The production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Donovan Joseph, Kenny Juno, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. For Sharief Ishaq and Garland Gillen, I'm Eric Asher. Happy New Year. We'll see you right back here next week for Inside New Orleans Sports. Thank you.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.